Welcome to a new series featuring some of the world's top motor racing action. We're at the brand new Oschersleben circuit in Germany for the start of the International Formula 3000 and GT Championships. Once again, you'll be able to follow the season on ITV. We'll have action every time there's no Grand Prix. And if last year's anything to go by, excitement is guaranteed. Last season, the GTs thrilled us from start to finish. Mercedes and McLaren BMW locked in battle all year long, and the deciding moment came in America when Steve Soper and JJ Leto saw their title hopes go up in smoke. The Mercedes CLK swept to victory, Bernd Schneider the drivers' champion. They're back, but no BMWs this time. Porsche provide the new threat, and that gives Scotsman Alan McNish a real chance to make a name for himself.
Year when I raced a few of the FIA races for the Porsche factory team, I felt that it would be very nice and very good for my career if I was able to make that a permanent position. I did that over the winter and I'm looking forward to the challenge. It's an important year for Alan McNish and it's an important year for Porsche.
Thanks, Tony. Behind me now are what we expect to be the two main contenders for the GT Championship this season, Porsche and Mercedes. Let's find out how they qualified for this race at Oschersleben, along with all the other cars. Here's Simon Taylor.
Mercedes, champions last year, have 4 of their Husky V12s to defend their title. But the challenge comes from this completely new lightweight car from Porsche. They've won the qualifying battle. Jörg Müller is on pole in the car he'll share with Uwe Alsen. Fastest Mercedes is one of their blue B-team cars, driven by Marcel Thiemann and Jean-Marc Gounon. The British star in the Porsche team is Scotsman Alan McNish. The new car is fast, but can it last?
Porsche have in the past been extremely reliable with their cars coming out of the box. It's always a test. That's what racing's about, and you've got to finish. And we're intending to try and finish, and we're intending to try and finish as high as possible.
In the Mercedes, next to McNish, is last year's Formula 3000 champion Ricardo Zonta. The talented Brazilian is having his first ever GT race. On the row behind and having his umpteenth GT race, the reigning champion in this discipline, Bernd Schneider. In the mighty American Paynos is Australian David Brabham.
We're a bit more competitive than we were last year, and with less people then it obviously helps, but I think we'll get more points than we did last year, that's for sure. I'm hoping that we're going to finish on the podium quite a few times.
Just one McLaren here, Thomas Boucher's private car shared with Jeff Lees.
To be quite truthful, we don't really stand a chance to run at the front. We need, as a private team, some incentive to help us to stay with the works teams. We need a bit more power or something. We've just got to keep going round and picking up places.
As before, there's a race within a race for the GT2 cars. Last year's champion Justin Bell isn't here, but there are 4 big Chrysler Vipers to take on a stream of 911 Porsches round this tight and twisty little circuit.
So the GTs are on their rolling lap. They're making their way round to the start now. Let's join our commentator, Simon Taylor.
The rolling grid is already pouring over the start line, and a Porsche leads 5 abreast into the first corner, but it's Müller's Porsche. From the Mercedes of Thiemann, Schneider making a great start. Then McNish is in 4th place. Boucher's Mercedes, Zonta is there. Brabham in 7th place in the front-engine Paynos. Just behind him, Jeff Lees, 8th in the McLaren. But Müller is opening up a bit of a lead. And look, there's the silver Mercedes of Schneider going past its teammates straight up into 2nd place. Müller leads. Schneider is 2nd. Then the 2 blue Mercedes taking that wide line into the left-hander behind the pits. A big twitch there from Schneider, who's trying very, very hard indeed. It may be an endurance race, but right from the start on this opening lap, this Porsche versus Mercedes battle is really on. There's a Porsche versus McLaren battle further down. Michael Bartels in the green Zakspeed Porsche pushing Jeff Lees in the Thomas Boucher McLaren, but at the front, Müller's Porsche leads Schneider's Mercedes. 3 Mercedes all in line ahead. Then Alan McNish in 5th place. Meanwhile, over the brow comes the GT2 battle. German girl Claudia Hürtgen leading the Dutchman Koreuser in the multicoloured Marcos, and then Carl Wendlinger's Viper. Now as they come round to complete the end of lap 1, the order is still the same. Porsche has gone through, then the 3 Mercedes, then McNish, then Zonta, then the Paynos, then the McLaren. McLaren and the Porsche still welded together, showers of sparks, because these cars are absolutely full of fuel. This is quite a bumpy track, this new Oschersleben circuit, and the cars are running right down on the suspension. As through goes Michael Bartels, but Jeff Lees bangs the door shut in Bartels' face. Bartels keeps his foot in, and the Porsche is ahead as they go through the chicane, bumping over those curves, these cars nodding as they go over the bumps. We ride now with Bernd Schneider, and there's already one of the slower 911s coming up to be lapped. Schneider goes blasting by as he goes into that long left-hander, sawing away at the wheel, taking the second apex. There's the third apex, and across for the right-hander as the Paynos now has the green Porsche of Michael Bartels in its mirrors. David Brabham coming under pressure, spurts of flame from the Paynos' exhaust as they go past one of the slower 911s. Paynos and Porsche pass the 911 Porsche, and the headlights ablaze on the Paynos, this very distinctive silver car with its engine, of course, in the front. Big American pushrod V8 engine, front engine, lots of speed down the straight, not perhaps quite as quick through the corners, and Michael Bartels' Porsche pouncing, as it has pounced already, on Jeff Lee's McLaren. And McNish is off! McNish off for GT2 Porsche off! Is that a traffic accident? Did the two of them collide? McNish stationary, we're seeing it again. Zonta's Mercedes is there. Zonta's Mercedes apparently spinning McNish round in front of the GT2 Porsche. A cloud of smoke and steam and gravel. Still spurts of flame from the back of the Porsche because the engine's still running. McNish gets it back onto the circuit. There's earth and grass and gravel in the air intake of that car, but McNish is carrying on. He's back on the circuit. This is Bernd Schneider using every inch of the road, plus a little bit that isn't always there, in his pursuit of the leading Porsche of Jörg Müller as they go through the traffic. But it's still Müller first, Schneider second, and McNish is back in the race. Zonta got ahead of him in that incident. Zonta now fifth, but McNish is still there sixth. And we ride with the leader, Müller. Once again, a bit of traffic. He goes storming past that GT2 Porsche in the right-hand drive, 98 GT1 Porsche. The Mercedes a left-hand drive, the Porsches are right, working away with that fun little handlebar steering wheel. Müller very quick, another ex-Formula 3000 star, as Bernd Schneider comes up behind the Viper of Olivier Beretta. Schneider right in the GT2 battle, now led by the Marcos with its red bonnet and its green bottom. The Marcos leads, Claudia Hurtgen in second place, and while these GT2 cars are having their own race, they've still got to watch their mirrors because the GT1 cars are upon them. There's the Marcos, there is the second place Mercedes, there's Claudia Hurtgen with the two Vipers behind her. Excitement all the way down, both in GT1 and in GT2, as Jeff Lees makes an early stop in the Thomas Boucher McLaren. And now the third place Mercedes of Marcel Thiemann hits the side of the Wendlinger GT2 Viper as he was lapping it. That's just the sort of problem we were talking about. The traffic, the Viper is going backwards at the moment. And now McNish. McNish is in the pits, and it looks serious because he's done a U-turn and the mechanics are wheeling McNish's Porsche back into the garage. There's a Mercedes stop also, but for McNish it looks serious. They've got the front bodywork off. This is obviously a problem that has come out of that trip across the grass after the collision with Ricardo Zonta. McNish out Dalmas, his co-driver, in the cockpit. Let's hear from McNish.
Alan, can you tell us what's happening?
We've got a problem with the front floor section, which is vibrating on the straights, anything above 120 kilometers per hour, and it makes the car very unstable and dangerous, so we're fixing that.
Meanwhile, here's the lead Porsche, Jörg Müller, coming in for his routine stop. Uwe Altzen, his co-driver, is ready. They're cleaning the windscreen already. Out gets Jörg Müller. In gets Uwe Altzen, swinging his legs in to the very tight cockpit of the GT1 Porsche as they refuel the car. Schneider is in now with the number one Mercedes. Mark Webber standing by, but Schneider stays in the cockpit, and they can't restart it. They've got a problem restarting that car. They've got the door open again. Uwe Altzen back into the race, and as Altzen rejoins, they still can't restart the number one Mercedes. Meanwhile, they've mended the McNish car. Yannick Dalmas taking it back into the race. They've patched up the under tray, and look, they're still trying to restart Bernd Schneider's Mercedes. They're plugging in a slave battery. Now he's got it started. He's got it started. Shut the door. He stalled it again. now it's stalled once more. There's obviously a bad electrical problem. Now I think he's got it started again. They shut the driver's door. Away he goes at last. A disastrously slow pit stop for Bernd Schneider. He goes back into the race, but both the lead Porsches are now back, although the Alan McNish car has lost a lot of time. Now the number 2 car, Ricardo Zonta, out. In Ricardo Zonta staying in the race still, and David Brabham has handed over to Eric Bernard in the Penos. All these routine stops happening at 1/3 distance. There's Armin Hahne taking out the green Porsche. He's taken that over from Michael Bartels, but all of this has put this car into the lead. Ricardo Zonta, his second stint at the wheel of the number 2 Mercedes, he stayed in the car, and as he laps the Franz Conrad Nick Ham GT2 Porsche, it's Mercedes in the lead, and a battle on now for second place between Uwe Altzen. We're riding with him now, and he's right on the tail of Marcel Thiemann, who stayed in the blue Mercedes. Altzen putting the pressure on Thiemann now, having a little look at the inside, and he's going to try and use the traffic. They're coming up to lap one of the slower Vipers, and Altzen weaving from side to side. Look at all the rubber there is on this circuit already. The Viper keeps out of the way. Thiemann still holds the second place. The Porsche tucked so close in behind them, when they're coming towards you, you can barely see it. And there's a problem now for the Bartels car. Driven now by Armin Hahne, they're wheeling it back into the pits, but once more we ride with Uwe Altzen, who is trying to get this second place, and you can see how these cars move about on the limit. Now Uwe Altzen will be looking ahead to that slower GT2 Porsche they have to pass. Is he going to be able to make use of it? But in fact, the Porsche's keeping out of the way. The Mercedes leading into the final corner onto the start-finish straight, and then using all of its V12 power to accelerate away. That's the battle for second place. Here is the leader. No doubt at all that Ricardo Zonta is dominating his first ever GT race. Mercedes 1, Mercedes 2, Porsche 3 at the moment.
Welcome back to Germany and round 1 of the FIA GT Championship. All sorts of problems, as you've seen from Alan McNish, but it's still an intriguing battle at the front. Let's rejoin our commentator, Simon Taylor.
Thanks, Dave, and there is our leader, Ricardo Zonta, the silver Mercedes with the red mirrors, still in the lead, but it's Mercedes, Porsche Mercedes now, because Uwe Altzen won that battle for second place that we were watching earlier with Marcel Thiemann. And the sister car to Marcel Thiemann's is coming in now. That's the Bouchou Mailander, but Mercedes comes into the pits for an unscheduled stop, and the Alan McNish Porsche, still going after its earlier delay, it's now in 7th place. Here's the Thomas Bacheur McLaren losing a bit of bodywork, which flies into the air. Everybody who follows has to take avoiding action. They're still working on that Mercedes in the pits, and in comes now the second place Porsche of Uwe Altzen. And it's not a routine stop. He does that sinister turn which allows the mechanics to push the car back into the garage. They're going to work on that car too, just as they did Alan McNish, and a big accident. That's Thomas Bacheur's McLaren being hit very hard by a GT2 Porsche. The McLaren is completely crippled, smashed at the front. The GT2 Porsche has come to a halt. It looks like another traffic accident. I don't know what started that, but Thomas Bacheur still in the car, opening the door now. Michael Kane in the pits, the team manager of Thomas Bacheur's car, watching it all on a TV monitor, no doubt not particularly happy. Now we're going to see a replay. Thomas Bacheur is on the grass, the car all in one piece, but he goes back onto the track. The car spins round straight across in front of the Graham Poulin GT2 Porsche, which smashes into the front of it, and the front of the McLaren is awash with shredded bodywork and steam from broken radiators, and that car's race is certainly run. That's Thomas Bacheur, the wealthy German banker. I wonder if his wallet will feel the difference after today's race. So Mercedes now 1, 2, 3, because the Uwe Altzen Porsche is still in the pits being worked on. We don't know yet whether it's going to come back into the race or whether it has indeed been posted as a retirement. Ricardo Zonta the leader. This car, the one with yellow mirrors, Bernd Schneider in second place. So Bernd Schneider almost a complete lap behind Zonta, because he's got Zonta behind him on the road, but almost an entire lap in front of him in the race. Schneider taking that wide line. He too has done 2 stints in this race, sliding a little bit, correcting a bit of oversteer. This wonderful looking silver Mercedes with the big V12 engine at the back, big heavy car, heavier than the Porsches, but so far it seems just as quick and certainly more reliable. But Alan McNish has climbed back up to 6th place. There he is, headlights ablaze, coming over the brow of the hill, but their teammates, that's Jörg Müller there in the pits talking to the Porsche personnel, his teammate Uwe Altzen also out of the car, in fact getting a little cuddle from Jörg Müller. It looks as though Müller and Altzen are out of the race. The 2nd place Mercedes in the pits now, a routine stop, and now Marcel Thiemann is handing over to Jean-Marc Gounon, who gets into the car for the first time this race, and that shuffles the order among the Mercedes. There's Bernd Schneider, and he moves now into 2nd place, still Zonta leading, Schneider in 2nd place. In comes the 4th placed car. This is the Pénoz. Eric Bernard brings it in. They're still working on the Marcel Thiemann car, refueling it, and now the other 2 Mercedes are both in the pit lane. Schneider comes down the pit lane, Zonta comes down the pit lane. We're going to have 3 Mercedes in the pits all at once. One of the Mercedes mechanics nearly getting run over there by Bernd Schneider. Schneider is in his pit, Zonta is in his pit. We're sitting with Schneider as the screen is cleaned, the new wheels go on, and now Schneider is getting out, and his Australian co-driver is about to have his first go in race conditions in the number 1 car. That is Mark Webber. Klaus Ludwig's in the Ricardo Zonta car as well, so both the number 1 and number 2 Mercedes have changed drivers in these pit stops. But let's hear from the co-driver for Mercedes McLaren, Jeff Lees.
Today was a bad day. It seemed to all go wrong in the pits for a start. The starter motor wouldn't work, lost a lot of time there. I also had a tyre problem at the start, but we finished it off in a big way, I think.
A big and expensive way to end the race for that McLaren. Well, the Mercedes running 1, 2, 3 up with them on the road at the moment. The Hannah Bartels Porsche, the only one of the GT1 Porsches to have had a trouble-free race as they come through that long right-hander. Side by side, the Mercedes, and squeezing in the Bartels Porsche, losing a bit of bodywork there. Let's hear from Ricardo Zonta.
Ricardo, a long stint for you. How difficult was that?
Yeah, very difficult, because first time I'm in the car and was very completely different for me than another race. But I started not very well, and I had some problems with the front tires, a lot understeer in the first hour.
Alan McNish and his Porsche got a shove from one of the Mercedes. He wasn't sure if it was you or Schneider.
With me, because one Porsche was in front of him. He couldn't overtake him. When I came right side than him, he came from my car, and we touched, but he gone outside the track. But it was the race, I didn't know.
Well, that explains a lot. Well, Alan McNish is slowing down now. I can see the Porsche with its headlights still ablaze, with its winker going, then moving across to the left, and quite clearly all is not well with that car. Alan McNish nursing it down to the end of the pit lane and trying to get it clear off the track, which he now does. And what a tremendous shame that is. We had such high hopes for Alan McNish's first drive in this new Porsche, but it's all gone wrong after a difficult race, and it now seems that McNish's race is run. No such problems for the Klaus Ludwig Mercedes, which is storming around. Ricardo Zonta got that car in the lead. Klaus Ludwig is carrying on the good work, and Mark Webber's lost a wheel. The yellow mirrored Mercedes has lost a front wheel. The wheel is rolling across the runoff area, crashes into the barrier quite harmlessly, fortunately, comes to a halt. But what about Mark Webber? Mark Webber has managed to get that car on 3 wheels. The left front wheel is missing. We see it again. The wheel comes off as he lurches to the left. Fortunately, that's the final corner almost of the lap, and he hasn't got far to go to get back to the pits. And now the Mercedes mechanics are working on that car, no doubt trying to find out why the wheel departed. Is there any damage? The mechanics looking at the hub and trying to see, can they get another wheel on? Can they get him back into the race? He was second. The Gounon team and Mercedes has gone by to take that second place, and as the Mercedes mechanics work, there's McNish's abandoned car. McNish walking back to his pit, but still they're trying to get the number 1 Mercedes back into the race. They've got a wheel on. They're trying to tighten it up, and the air wrench is just spinning round and round and round. There's obviously still a problem there. Mark Webber sitting impassively in the cockpit. Is he going to be able to carry on with his first GT race? They can't tighten the wheel up. Now they're trying a bit of good old-fashioned elbow grease. A great big wrench is put on the wheel nut, and they're determined to get that car back into the race. They've got it started. The wheel is on. Is the wheel going to stay on? Mark Webber takes the car out into the race. And here's Alan McNish walking home.
Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it has.
Yeah, unfortunately, we were out of sync on pit stops, and we thought about trying to make it to the end without another one. That proved impossible, so I started to pick up the pace again, and something's happened and I've lost drive. I don't know what it was just coming out the corner, and it's a bit unfortunate. So it's a good opportunity to really test the car to the finish of the race.
And even the side of a Mercedes with 3 wheels couldn't cheer you up now.
I don't think anything could cheer me up at the moment, to be honest.
Well, cheered up by the 3-wheeled Mercedes was David Brabham, because he has gone past into 3rd place, but now he's coming into the pits. The Paynos coming into the pits with David Brabham at the wheel, and this is not a scheduled stop, and that is going to allow Mark Webber's Mercedes to get back into 3rd place. Mercedes go back to 1, 2, 3, and the Paynos coming rather gently down the pit lane into its pit with some sort of late race problem. Mercedes 1, 2, 3 once more. There's the pit signal for Ludwig, and it says P1 for Ludwig, and that's going to make Ricardo Zonta extremely happy, because there he is looking extremely happy. 2/3 of this entire race, and the Mercedes with the red mirrors looking very comfortable indeed. The number 2 car well out in front. The Gunon and Thiemann Mercedes, the blue car, in a comfortable 2nd place, and Mark Webber's Bernd Schneider started Mercedes has all 4 of its wheels on. The car's looking good, and it is back in that 3rd place thanks to the delay that the Paynos has had with that last-minute pit stop. In GT2, incidentally, the Marcos, which led the race, led the GT2 section for so long, lost its nose after an altercation with the Paynos. Claudia Hurtgen retired her very quick Porsche 911, so the Vipers have come out on top once more in GT2. Vipers 1 and 2 at the moment. But as everybody knows in endurance racing, and the Mercedes-Benz team know that better than anybody else as they watch their computers, it isn't over until it's over. And still Klaus Ludwig reels off these final laps, trying to keep out of the way of the traffic. The surface is now very oily and very slippery, although all sign of the rain has disappeared. And as Ludwig comes over the start-finish straight, ready to gobble up another GT2 Porsche ahead of him, he's got the green Porsche GT1 car, the Bartels car, still running despite that lost bit of bodywork which we saw earlier, and that's several laps behind, but still running in the top 6. Mercedes 1, 2, 3, Porsche GT1 passing Porsche GT2 in the background, and it hasn't been a day to remember for Porsche with their very fleet new car. It has shown itself to be unreliable, but Porsche came here to Oschersleben saying that their car was so new, so little tested, that they were really regarding this race as a test. And while Mercedes-Benz look as though they've dominated the proceedings, we're certainly going to hear more of this new GT1 Porsche as the season goes on. Alan McNish very disappointed, but he will have learned a lot about how the car performs, certainly on a tight, twisty circuit. Round 2 is going to be on the fast open stretches of Silverstone, and it may well be that that will suit the Porsches rather better. A little puff of smoke there from the leading Mercedes, but this is the final lap for Klaus Ludwig, and surely nothing is now going to come between him and victory. Victory for him, a veteran of long-distance sports car racing, and a victory for Ricardo Zonta in his very first race in a 2-seater car. Single-seater star he is. Today's a GT star. The checkered flag waves, and Mercedes win the opening round. There is Ricardo Zonta watching his own victory from the pits. Mercedes win the opening round of the 1998 FIA GT Championship, and they win it in tremendous style with a 1, a 2 and a 3. And there is the Viper of Olivier Beretta and Pedro Lamy, which comes home the GT2 winners, and they take the checkered flag. A great 1-2 for Viper, a great 1-2-3 for Mercedes, and there is their champagne that they richly deserve.
So Mercedes totally dominating. There's still work for Porsche to do, but promising signs for Paynos in 5th. David, points on the board already. You must be pleased.
Yeah, pleased in one way. I think we struggled a lot here this weekend, trying to find grip with the car, and to get some points at this weekend I think is good for us, it's good for Dams, it's good for everyone.
The GT2 result looks familiar, 2 Vipers top of the tree, but a good opener for Martin Stretton in 5th in his first full GT season. Martin, what do you think of your day's work today? Pleased?
Yeah, on balance I'm quite happy. It's the beginning of a season, which is a new thing for me, and the main thing was to make sure the team were pleased and get into the team, get to know everybody and work with the car. And we've had a few problems, but really I'm very happy with the first weekend.
So as the drivers enjoy their well-deserved celebrations, that's just about it from this first meeting of the season. We'll be back on our next programme with 2 Formula 3000 races for you from Imola and Catalunya. Join us then.